Hey guys, Sherman here, bringing you a Kaguya-sama Love is War Set 1 tier list. Now, I have a lot of Kaguya-sama content that I'm hoping to get out in the coming weeks, but I thought it would be a great time to just do a tier list and take a holistic overall view of the set. It's been out in Japan for over half a year now, and it's about to come out in English, so I think it's a great time to look at what decks have come out of the set, what's been doing well, what's not been doing well, and just kind of kickstart some ideas for deck creation, how to push the set even further with the English release, as well as how the set can adapt to the meta right now. As with all tier list videos, this is entirely my opinion, right? So I'm not the law or anything like that. It's just what I think based on my experiences and the lists that I've seen globally that have been doing well, as well as my own testing. I hope this is just a good resource for why I think certain decks do better and kind of give ideas as to what kinds of Kaguya decks and Kaguya builds could be viable. So we're going to start with some of the more popular deck archetypes and then go venture off into some of the stuff I've been testing and some of like the more niche stuff. So first of all, we're going to start with the meta deck for Kaguya, which is level 3 gate, level 1 standby. Now you can run this 4-4 or you can run this 2-6 or anything in between. I've seen all the numbers. And this deck is easily an S tier deck. This is actually potentially one of the best decks in the game right now. It is very, very strong. I think mostly just because you have your strong level 0 game, and then it transitions very smoothly into a solid level 1 game where you get to play a standby combo with it and also get your 1-1 assist back row. And that just sets you up for resources for the rest of the game. And then when you hit level 2, it's really easy to set up one of your early plays, in particular the early play Shirogane, which completely shuts down anything that your opponent wants to set up. He's huge, he removes stuff from the board, he pushes damage, he's just great. And then once you hit level 3, your level 3 Kaguya finisher is very resource light. You're not really trying to play 3 and like triple combo, you're just playing as many as you want just to heal, and then if you have the gate you play it, if you don't have the gate, it doesn't really matter. It's just the whole deck runs very smoothly, like a well-oiled machine, very consistent. Yeah, so I think it's definitely a really solid deck. It really wins off of, in particular, level 0 and level 2. I think that's where the deck is at its strongest, and that's where the deck is built to really capitalize on the set's marquee cards, like the level 0K and 3-2 Shirogane. Yeah. Moving on, we have the Chika deck, which is Choice level 1 combo and Goldbar level 3 combo. I think this deck is B tier and low B, if it is B tier. Honestly, the deck's not really that bad, like in a vacuum. But the problem is it doesn't really play to any of Kaguya's strengths. Sure, you still have the good level 0 game, but your level 1 game is not as good. It's a little clunkier. You're just getting a salvage. Power is like very negligible. And then the problem is after that turn, like what do you do afterwards? Like your second level 1 turn and your level 2 turns are kind of weird. And also you want a lot of resources for your Chika finisher, which is a really strong finisher, but that means that's just fewer resources to play at level 2. You know, you don't get to play as many Shirogane early plays and K early plays as you would normally want to do in the standby deck. And then also, I think a big weakness of this deck is, even though the Chika level 3 finisher is really strong, you don't have any cards that help it guarantee a reverse, right? You don't have something like the Morphonica 3-2 Mashiro from the TD, or like the 2-1 Saya back row. Like you can't stop your opponent from like sack countering or like doing things to deny the reverse. Also, the Chika's not very big by itself, so you have to play some kind of back row to boost it up, which is even more resources. You're not playing standby, so it's harder to get that back row out. So it's not a bad deck by any means, but it just doesn't play to Kaguya's strengths as a set. It's fine, yeah, but not very good. Next deck is Hayasaka level 1 combo, Kaguya level 3 combo. I think this deck is really bad. I think this is a good example of like the level 3 Kaguya is not what makes this set good. It's not one of the strong cards in this set, right? The level 3 Kaguya is this there. It's a healer. It pushes damage. It's just a very efficient card, right? But it's not what will win you the game. If you play 3 of these and you triple combo, that's cool, right? That's not exciting though. The problem with this deck is it's too resource intensive, because your level 1 Hayasaka package requires a lot of stock to keep looping the Hayasakas, And then you also need reverses to get your resources. So if you get denied reverse, you're like super down on resources in terms of hand. So you have to use even more stock to try to get your hand back. If you're using all that stock at levels 2, you don't have the resources to early play heal. You don't have the resources to do all these things. You also want to get the 1/1 back row in this deck because it resonances with the 0/0 drop search that you're probably running because you're running 3/2 Kaguya. And then that requires even more stock. You could also not run that, but then your Kaguyas are tiny when you do play them at level 3. And by the time you're playing them, it's already too late, right? You're trying to just catch up on the resource game. Basically, the deck is good 0/1, and then it just doesn't do anything at level 2 because you don't have your resources to do anything. And then I guess once you hit level 3, it's just too late, right? You can't catch up at that point. I think in general, like, it's just not a really good deck. You're also running a lot of pieces for the synergies, right? So you're running the 0/0 Kaguya back row, you're running the event, you're running the 1/1, you're running the 0/0 Hayasaka. And it's all these pieces that are needed to make these two combos work better, but they don't actually synergize with each other, right? Like if you're running the 0/0 Hayasaka drop search, you want to be playing that with standby because there's natural synergy there. But with a book, it doesn't really do anything. Even if you bounce it back to hand, you're probably going to be overhand, and then you have an empty spot on the board that's not being utilized. So it's just an awkward pairing, basically. It's an awkward pairing that just takes up a lot of deck slots that makes very little use of it. These two combos work better by themselves than together. Together, it's not that great. All right, the next deck is the Fireworks deck, which is level 1 TD combo and level 3 Shirogane standby combo. I think it's a B tier deck. It's actually quite a good deck. Basically, you just build it like the meta deck, except you take out the 3/2 Kaguyas for 3/2 Shirogane, and then you take out the 1/1 back rows and some of your other supporting cards for the Chika Brainstorms. And then you have the Fireworks deck. Oh yeah, you swap your level 1 combo. So the trade-off is obviously you don't get standby level 1 combo and you don't get Kaguya 3/2 1k1. But then you flip it, so you get to play a 1k1 at level 1 to do a plusing combo. And then you can play your standbys at level 2 to get your finisher. If you standby out Shirogane at level 2, and then you get to do a standby again. So let's say like you trigger a standby Shirogane out, and then he lives, you play a standby from hand, then you can standby the Kaguya out, and then you actually can push both damage and you can build field with the standby combo at level 2, which is kind of cool. The downside is actually its color consistency. That's actually why it's B, not A tier. I think if the color was better, it would be A tier. But basically, the deck is tricolor with experience requirement, and you need blue at 1, which means that you basically don't get to level red ever until level 3, and then you're always trying to figure out, okay, can I like clock red at this turn to play my standby or not? And you're not running actually that much red in the deck. In fact, if you look at the meta Kaguya deck, your red count is pretty low. You just get by because your level 3s and your level 1s are red. And you get by because you get to level 3/2 Kaguya for level 1, right? But then since in this deck you need blue at level 1, you're probably leveling 3/2 TD Kaguya, blue. And then you just don't get red. And it's really awkward to play. So it ends up being a little too finicky, which lowers its consistency. And it's already a weaker ceiling than the meta Kaguya deck. So it's like more consistency issues and a weaker ceiling. So unfortunately, it's not just like a step below. So, but it's definitely a B tier deck. I would say it's better than the Chika deck easily. You have all the strengths of the meta deck, just kind of a little different flavor. All right, the next deck we have is the 8 Goldbag deck, which runs probably K combo and not the Shirogane combo. But you could run the Shirogane combo. It's not very good, but your top end, you just probably play TT Kaguya and 3/2 Shirogane as your finishers. I think this is a... Is this a C tier? I think it's either high C or low B. So this deck, the problem with this deck is consistency as well. Like, if this deck works, it is like S tier, like S minus. It is so good because you just get everything you ever want from a deck. Your level 1 game is huge. It's 7k with the both back rows. And you just have all the stock, all the hands you ever want. You early play every single turn. You heal every single turn. And then when you hit level 3, you just play Shirogane Kaguya. And then you're already winning by like an entire level at that point. Like when this deck goes off, it is just everything. But The problem is this deck is extremely dependent on triggering climaxes for its advantage. You don't get to do anything else, right? You could run like a Brainstorm and the K in the back row, but then that reduces power on your 1-0 combo turn, which you kind of want to wall up with your 1-0 Ks for this deck to really hit its peak. Yeah, it's just, and if you don't trigger climaxes, you just don't have hand, because the most efficient plussing engine in this deck is pay 1 draw 1. Also, your K is not a very good quality plus, right? It's on attack, reveal the top card of your deck if it's a shooting character out of your hand. So, you know, sometimes you plus a bunch and then you look at your hand, it's like kind of unplayable. And Kaguya doesn't really have a lot of good hand filter options. It's actually lacking in that department a lot. So it's definitely a high roll kind of Gamba deck, but if it goes off, it's super good. It just needs a lot more help and consistency. I think if like they got some PRs or some like set 2 cards maybe that can help the consistency, I could see this deck doing really well because the core is definitely there. It's quite strong. It just needs a lot of consistency help. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna talk about is just Ishigami combo with like anything. It just doesn't matter. It's just D tier. Okay, Ishigami combo it's kind of a travesty. It's a 2/1 that has a minus level condition from hand if you have a full board, which means if you play it and then you play the Kaguya that sacks itself to look at top 4 and add 1 to your hand, you can play another one, so you could get 2 off, which sounds great until you realize that requires exact like 3 stock on your first level 1 turn, and then you get this combo that's like, it's pretty good honestly. Like searching first deck is really strong. It's basically like a Yuki combo, except you pay the stock when you play the character and not when you do the combo. The downside is like if you don't have the combo, this card is just so garbage. Cause like let's say like if you're playing Yuki Sao, right, and you don't have the combo, you're like, well, at least I can play the Yukis and attack with my 1-0 beaters, and they get power on play, right? Like if you don't have the combo, are you playing this Ishigami from hand? It's like 7/5 power. It's not gonna live on the opponent's turn. Like you just committed 1 stock to do nothing. It's like so bad. Also, it's on a win, and like this is not the year of win. Okay, win was good once upon a time, but no longer. So yeah, no, Ishigami combo is just really bad. So don't play it. I don't think this can get saved either. It's just not good. All right, next we have level 1 standby and level 3 Chika ramen choice combo. So the idea is, let's say you play the meta deck, except you switch out all the Kaguyas for 3/2 Chikas, and you know when you stand by a 3/2 Chika, it has -1 soul across. So it's kind of like a heal, right? Especially at level 2, since your opponent's not going for like a finishing turn. And if you play the choice combo, you get to actually heal. And also you can balance your opponent's board, so it's pretty good against stuff like standby. I think it's like C tier. Better than the 8 bag deck, but not really B. I think the reason why it's not B, against like color, and then you're just not doing that much with the Chika combo. The Chika combo is pretty neg actually, because it's not it's climax combo, you have to ditch a card to heal. So it's like you kind of start hemorrhaging a lot of resources for no reason, and yeah, that's just not good. But it is playable. Like if you don't have the 3/2 Kaguyas and you want to play the meta deck, you could just try this. Your color is a little bit more weird, again similar to the fireworks deck, but I mean it's still totally playable, right? It's like it'll work. It's just kind of weird, and I would probably just recommend play fireworks. I think fireworks is, if you don't have the meta deck, you should just play fireworks. It's like the closest thing to the meta deck, even though it's like pretty different. Like this is closer in card count to the meta deck. Like you're probably running the most overlap, but then it just doesn't play out the same. Whereas the fireworks deck, even though you're not playing exactly the same cards, I think the playstyle is much more similar. So yeah. All right, next we have 1-0 standby combo 3/2 Chika with Goldbar. So the idea again is, you know, your level 3 Kaguya is not the marquee of the deck, right? It's the standby package. It's your level 0 game. It's the Shirogane. So why not just play 3/2 Chika and just have some love detectives on the side? You know, play them when you can, and then you have this much bigger finishing combo that you can also standby out to help reduce stock cost. And I actually think this is really good. I think this is definitely the best 3/2 Chika deck. I think it's better than 1-0 Chika. Like, you get everything from the meta deck, you just swap out the end game. So the only awkward thing is you have to run 1-0 events, which are yellow. So you kind of 3-color, but then the 1-0 events, like, you don't have to play them. It's honestly fine if you just clock them. And then it's mostly red-green, like the meta deck. You actually have easier access to green because you have more top-end green, and then you just need to make sure you get red somehow. I think it's fine, yeah. And then one thing that this does help is it helps Kaguya's problem with mill. So the thing with the meta deck is if you don't hit your 1-1 resonance very early first deck, you might have some milling issues, which is why you play the PR Brainstormer, the spammable Brainstormer, because sometimes you just need to get out of your deck. So yeah, this can fix it, because not only do you have the 1-0 event to help mill, you also have ditch card bonds to that event, so it helps with your hand fixing, which is also another issue of the meta deck that the spammable Brainstorm helps fix. So you technically get to conserve stock like that, which is kind of cool. And you can still run the resonance. Like, you can run both, which is kind of nice. Yeah, the problem is deck slot, so you're cutting some pretty important cards from the meta deck in order to make this happen. But I think something you could work something out. Definitely something to try. If you want to play the 3-2 Chika combo, I would recommend trying the standby level 1 instead of the Chika level 1. Because I just don't think the Chika level 1 is that good. All right, moving on is Hayasaka. Oh, this is 8 book. So Kaguya level 3, Hayasaka level 1. So the idea of 8 book and why you would move to 8 book from Kaguya level 3 combo is just that Kaguya level 3 combo requires Kaguya level 3s and then also requires your drop searchers, right? But then drop searchers in the Hayasaka deck is not very synergistic, and you don't want to dedicate a lot of room to running drop searchers, especially you don't want to hold them for the resonance, right? Because you're not really getting that much value out of them. So the idea is, why don't you just play top end that runs fewer cards, right? It's just you can run like 3 to 4 of this 3-2 Kaguya, and it's a lot more compact. And by running 8 book, you can tap into this 2-1 back row Kaguya support, 2k to level 3s, level 3s or higher, and whenever you trigger a book, you can get your card to salvage. So it turns all your books into gates, basically. And then that frees up your deck slot to run more other cards, especially cards at level 2. So you can play a heavier level 2 game, you can play more early play heals, right? The Hayasaka early play heal, the K early play heal. And then when you hit level 3, you don't need that much stock because you're not really trying to get like triple restand. You get like maybe 1 or 2 restands, and restands are pretty cost efficient, right? So I actually think this deck is fairly good. I think it's actually a B tier deck. Mostly just because when you open up slots to just have more payoffs for the 1-0 Hayasaka engine, the engine actually becomes quite good because it's really efficient. Your back row 0-0 resonance with the event to search or salvage a 1-0 Hayasaka, and just being able to consistently play that over and over again is actually really, really strong. Because like what you can also do is once you hit level 2 and you're trying to early play a K, right? Usually when you play the heal to stocks, it takes a lot of hand, right? But then you can also just you can search a Hayasaka and then play the K and then ditch the Hayasaka to kill a stock. And one good thing about this resonance over the 1-1 resonance is that you don't have to mill through your deck, and you don't have to like let's say you're doing the 1-1 resonance and you like hit a climax, you're like, oh shoot, I need to keep going, right? Because I don't want to neg, I need to hit playables, right? But with the 0-0, you're always getting a playable. You're always getting a 1-0 6k beater, which is like a pretty good playable, right? And you're not touching your deck, right? So if you're searching out of your deck, you're just taking one damage out of your deck. And your deck is left completely intact, which is great. Or if you don't want to touch your deck at all, you can just salvage, right? It's actually quite good. The resource engine is quite strong. Actually, I would even put this above the Chika deck. I think you could just really abuse the resource engine, and yeah, it's quite good. I think the only downside is that like book is not a very good trigger, and the 2-1 back row only comes out at level 2, which means that for most of the game, you're still playing with books, and you know, it's only later that you can turn them into gates. Yeah, so I think that's like the major weakness of the deck. So the last idea is, okay, well, if you don't want to play 8 books, why don't we just play 4 pad triggers, and specifically the 2-1 Hayasaka one, because that combo is very resource positive. It's a really efficient combo. You probably don't need to resolve like more than 1. If you resolve 1, it's already like pretty good. And the idea is that if you have a pants trigger and you trigger that, you could get your book back. And then since you're always able to get level 1 Hayasakas on the board, your book is always a threat, right? Your opponent just can't. If your opponent leaves up any reversible targets, they're forced to either protect it or give you free pluses, right? And searching from your deck is a really good plus because not only is it's a plus that's quality because you're searching the card, but you're also taking the damage out of your deck. And actually, I think this is an A tier deck. This is probably the second best deck in Kaguya because you're just abusing this 1-0 engine to its maximum. And that's actually quite good. The deck is very efficient. It's very consistent. You know, you just play a bunch of early play healers and you just keep looping them. You always have a board that's strong. You're not ever like giving up lanes for free. You can always contest your opponent's board. They always have to deal with a 106k beater basically, which can get really, really annoying. Because that's actually just like a quality card to have, right? Like not every deck can challenge a 106k beater for the entire game, right? Like eventually they're gonna be like, okay, like I just have to play like a shitter. And then the moment they play a shitter and they give up a lane, that's when you just get a +1. And you can just like snowball that +1. Again, the strengths of Kaguya is level 0 game and then level 2 game with the Shirogane. And so as long as you can consistently get there and kind of maximize that, whatever deck you play, it'll work. So I think this actually has a great maximization of those two things. It's not clunky at all, very consistent. So yeah, so these are all the decks I was able to try out and test myself and also just see some lists floating around. Obviously, there are a bunch of other combinations that you could try that maybe I haven't talked about or haven't tried. So yeah, feel free to let me know even in the comments below if you have like some secret dank tech for Kaguya that's like amazing or something. I would love to give it a shot and try it out. So as far as deck profiles, I'm definitely going to do a deck profile on the meta deck just because that's the deck that everybody expects to do really well. It's kind of dominating the meta right now in a way. Has really, really good matchups, especially at level 0, basically against like practically anything. But I also really want to do a deck tech on deck profile on the Hayasaka deck because I think a lot of people, they think Kaguya is solved, right? They have this like really strong S tier meta deck and they don't really try any of the other options. But I actually think this Hayasaka deck can challenge the meta right now and is arguably better than the meta deck in certain situations. Because again, the meta deck is great, but standby has its weaknesses that it can be exploited, especially if you're playing against a set that is built to kind of like take advantage of standby. And just being able to play 1k1 climax as many turns as possible, like back to back to back, and always get advantage from it, that's really strong. So that's like, it's very aggressive. So this is definitely a more aggressive take on Kaguya. The meta deck's pretty defensive, I would say. So I want to do a deck profile on this because this is a really cool deck. And yeah, I'm down to do a profile on any of these other decks. So let me know in the comments below if there's a specific deck that you want me to see me talk about. Yeah, hopefully this was a good resource and maybe give you guys some inspiration on what you can play for Kaguya. And yeah, just go ahead and try out all these decks, Don't just take my word for it. Try it out yourself. Just see, how the deck interacts, how it fits together. Yeah, and hope you have a lot of fun with this set. I think the set's really, really good. If you're on the fence about like, oh, should I get into Kaguya? I think definitely get into Kaguya. It has some really, really strong decks, really fun card effects. It's a great set. So yeah, well anyways, that's it for me. I'll see you guys next time.